please help me. Please. He's kept me here for years. All I've been doing here is looking behind his head, answering his beck and call. I'd do anything to get out. Let me out. Let me out. Did you hear something? I couldn't hear you over the sound of my speed. Oh, that's right. We got another build. And you know what? It's not a PvP build. I'm steering away because I'm running out of things in PvP, let's be honest. But yeah, it's another PvE build. Now, before we actually get into this video, I have something to say just real quick. If you find this video enjoyable or you like it at all as it goes through, please consider subscribing. It's free, quick, and you could always change your mind if you don't like my content afterwards and hit the unsubscribe button. All right, thanks. Let's get back to the video. Now for this, we're actually using Warlock Top Tree Dawnblade. Now I know what you're thinking. Top Tree Dawnblade in PvE? What is with this dude? Using the meta stuff in PvE? What a joke! Shut up. I like using Top Tree Dawnblade in PvE, okay? I like moving fast. I like being fast. Don't quote me on that. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. And I was thinking to myself, what would be good with Top Tree Dawnblade in PvE? It was a very difficult question. And then I came around to the Felwinters Helmet. Now look at what this thing can do. Let me read it off just real quick. Arc, Solar, and Void melee kills create a burst of energy that weakens nearby enemies. Finishers and kills against more powerful enemies increase the radius of the burst and the length of the weakening effect. So basically, it's Oppressive Darkness. And what Oppressive Darkness is, and what this is, if you don't know, is it weakens enemies to a point where it debuffs them by a certain amount. Now for this helmet specifically, whenever you get a powerful melee kill, you will create a sort of explosion around yourself that is very minuscule. It will debuff anyone that is in the vicinity, and finishers do the same effect as well. Now what we're pairing with this is a bunch of melee stuff. To start it off, let's go with weapons. No, let's not go with weapons. To start it off, let's look at our gear, because our gear has what we're actually looking for. Our weapons is kind of the sidebar in this situation. So for our gear, our first thing that we're gonna go over is our bond. We have 1-2 finisher and outreach. 1-2 finisher, finishers restore melee abilities, requires 1/6 of your super energy. Outreach reduces melee cooldown when using your class ability. So a bunch of melee stuff, a bunch of stuff that helps us get our melee back. On top of that, we're using Top Tree Dawnblade. Now if you don't know, Top Tree Dawnblade actually has something cool about it. Something called Wing Sun. Airborne final blows extend the effects of heat rises and grant melee energy. That is very, very helpful for what I'm trying to do here, and what we are trying to do here actually. So whenever you get a kill in midair, it gives you melee energy back. So what we're going to be doing with this, we're going to be just getting a ton of kills in the air, even with our own melee ability. The thing that we need to do with this though, is we need to get the kills nearby enemies. So we need to be around enemies, melee, and be in the air at the same time. Much more simple than I am making it out to be. If you're watching the gameplay right now, you'll see what I'm talking about. So basically we're going to have our melee at all times, even as we're using our melee. As soon as we use our melee, if there's a lot of enemies grouped up, it will give us our melee back. Now our boots, we have traction, gives us that extra mobility, very nice, and we have auto rifle dexterity. Auto rifle dexterity, very useless. I don't know why I have it. Let's change that. For our boots, we have traction and submachine gun scavenger. For our chest piece, we have high energy fire, because who doesn't like having high energy fire and getting those charge of light stacks off, especially when we're going against bosses. Get those stacks up, use your shotgun, use the melee, get all that nice extra damage from high energy fire. Basically, if you don't know what it is, whenever you're charged with light, your weapons do extra damage. That's about it. And for our helmet, we just have another strength mod, because you can't have any special perks on them. And for gauntlets, yeah, I changed it up. I didn't like the other ones. I like these ones better. It makes me have 96 strength, but it doesn't really matter, honestly, because of Top Tree Dawnblade, and it's a perk that gives melee energy back whenever you get kills in midair. The cooldown reduction is not entirely needed, but it's useful. So for our gauntlets, we have pulse. Actually, you know what? Let me get rid of this. We have fastball, and going up with fastball, we are actually going to put swift charge, just to pair up with our submachine gun that we're currently using to give us that charge of light stacks, which then pairs up with high energy fire. And yeah, that about goes up with armor and mods. For stats, I'd try to go with a lot of strength. You don't necessarily need a lot of strength, but if you're not going in a lot of strength, take it into account that you are going to need a lot of kills in midair. If you have a lot of specs into strength, then you won't need to get as many kills in midair, because your cooldown reduction will decrease the time just a little bit more. Along with that, I like having mobility, and recovery should always be something that you have with warlocks as well. You want your rifts as much as possible. I did not use my rifts because I have been speeding around everywhere, but do not be like me. I am an idiot. Do not zoom around. Use your abilities the way that they are meant to be used. Recovery can really help you. It's really useful, and it gives you your healing rift and or empowering rift much faster. Resilience, get it up if you can, but I'm not going to run it in PvE. In PvP, I would have it up guaranteed. In PvE, doesn't matter to me as much. Discipline, intellect, doesn't matter. You can run it if you want. Moving on to weapons, we have a Hawthorne's Field Shotgun with 1-2 punch, full auto. Get out of your Boastmaster. We have a 1-2 punch, full auto system. Really nice for clearing bosses. It helps out in terms of just shredding them with our shotgun as well as our melee, considering that it also is a melee build. Helps out quite a bit. And we're using an SMG. Now this SMG does not help the build whatsoever, but I just like it. It's one of my favorite SMGs, and it's just really fun to use. Your heavy, doesn't matter. I would try to actually, you know what? It does matter. I'd go with the heavy that helps you shred bosses, because although you do have a shotgun, there are some bosses that will one-shot you. So, bosses that will one-shot you. Ogres. I would go with Falling Guillotine in most cases. And if not Guillotine, go with something else that shreds enemies just as fast. Like you can go Legend of Icarus, for example. You can go Warcliffe Coil. You can go Thousand Voices. You can go Anarchy. You can go with any grenade launcher that does a lot of damage. Whatever you like, as long as it's good at shredding bosses. And yeah, that's about it. That's all I have for this build. If you enjoyed this build or found it helpful in any way, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. And comment down below. I'd love to hear what people think of my builds and what they think of my commentaries, considering I don't know how I feel about them. So that about wraps it up. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.